the largest shareholder not have the largest say?
If you want a check and balance, Anuradha, in the system, then he cannot have the say. If I am the largest shareholder, I will want the board and everybody to dance to my tune. And then otherwise I can remove you. I do not want what I perceive to be a troublemaker. Anything against my interests, it might be against the interest of the smaller shareholders and everybody else. I give a damn. But if you don't follow what I say, I can remove you. So you are beholden to me.
No, I get
that system doesn't work. Ritual and religion.
I get that.
I mean,
but I'm saying if that is the structure of the company, then should that not be
then
okay?
Overseas, the other frameworks, they want to protect the interests of the minority. That's why this legislation is there. The cause and the effect, the check and the balance. It doesn't work here.
Yeah, no, that's my question. But anyway,
so if you really look at, in fact, US, they have a rule where the controlling shareholder have got the right to appoint directors. So, I mean, their philosophy is different. I think going back to Joy's point, I think it's a question of, adopting to different environments. And we have to adopt to the environment here where there are promoters are having a both.
He's raised a very important point, because overseas, the amount of capital that companies need is so large that there's not one family, not one individual controlling companies. So the management is divorced from ownership in public companies. So in that framework, you have these checks and balances created. They don't work in our system. One, you should not be able to remove a shareholder. The biggest shareholder should not be able to remove an independent director. You appointed him, he creates trouble, you have to live with him. Second, a forum has to be created where a dissenting director voices his opinion, and that's heard, a public forum. Right? So these two, I think, are very important steps.
So I think to that point is the changing the composition of the nomination committee, which is basically appoints the independent directors. And I think very clearly the shareholder activism has to rise much higher than what it is now. It is still at a very low level in terms of the, and if you see US, etc., and I'm sure people would have heard of these shareholder activists like ICANN, etc., who have broken bigger companies. And they raise very pertinent strategy points with respect to those companies. And they are even talking about whether the competence of the board. Those type of situation or environment we have to create in India for having a much more increasing the level of corporate governance.
Very true. I'll just raise one point here. Look, an independent director, and we all work for companies and have managed boards, etc., comes once in 3 months. You don't expect him to know all what's going on. If there's some problem, he won't know.
All panelists are having different views, totally different views. So my point is basically the rule of game is same for all. But still, the powerhouse, it is playing the different game. So why can't we have a union in terms of independent directors who can formally support the things, and and why not CFO next pick it up?
So we have to unionize independent directors. Is that the suggestion? Okay, I think that's an interesting, very interesting idea.
I think the model, and the governance framework and the model that we are, as a country that we are in, probably there is a bit of a misfit. As a result of which, this whole, debate is happening. But the good part is that for any good or bad things to happen, the churning need to happen without much of an interference. It's great to see that nobody is rushing to set right or correct any of the agencies or the government institutions. Though, in spite of having a big say in the whole the stake there, they're not rushing making anything out there, which is a great thing. It is bringing a lot of issues to debate for us the way we are doing, which itself probably throws up a lot of things for us to in fact learn as well as to in fact go ahead and
between two, it's a family. Cyrus Mistry is linked to Ratan Tata through marriage. Ratan Tata,
it's between two individuals.
half brother. Yes. It's also between two shareholders. Yes. Don't forget, Shapurji Palunji has whatever 18%. And in many of the Tata companies, Tatas have about 33 odd percent, right? Except TCS where they have 66. In those, if the foreign portfolio investors and LIC get together, they can support Cyrus Mistry. So it is not about independent direction. It is about two sets of owners. One is a smaller owner and the other is a bigger owner, right?
The point I was making, when you're absolutely right, is that the larger shareholder, he was the tallest among them all. Ultimately, it is his will who prevails. He appoints all the board directors, dependent, independent.
No, you're right, Joy, but
all dependent.
Here the smaller fellow can give a fight.
fight a losing battle under the current framework because the checks and balances in the system don't work. They're like ritual. There's a difference between ritual and religion.
Yeah.
Right? They give you a ritual. I have independent director, I have nomination committee,
what I'm
audit
saying
committee,
is, suppose
etc.
if
they all
foreign
don't work because they're highly dependent.
In fact, the similar thing happened with respect to Rusi Modi also, and with respect to that gentleman, what was his name, India Hotels chief. That time also a spat happened. But that time it is not a question of Rusi Modi as a share, also as 18% shareholding, no. But it's a CEO removal. In the last 1 year, at least half a dozen eminent CEO removal has happened, but nowhere it has happened like this. So the manner in which it is done is obviously not is not the right manner. But I am saying finally in the process what happens that shareholders has to exercise also, they are also part of the governance system. So I am talking about, I am repeatedly saying there are 3 levels of governance. So what happens when the shareholders meeting happens?
For that, I do want to ask a question which might be a little bit provocative.
Somebody who has to do the job, not only independent director, I'm just talking about a board. If you are not doing your job, then we can't just say that the system is not good. Giving you an example, we talked about stakeholders, whether minority shareholder or any other stakeholder or even majority shareholder. The law provides that you have to mediate and you have to kind of you can arbitrate even. The word used is arbitrate, mediate and arbitrate in the best interest of the company. You have to look at where is a conflict of interest in various stakeholders, shareholders.
Who is you?
Independent directors.
It's part of the
So
guideline.
my point is that if somebody is not doing a job, look at example. So I'll give you another example. Now whatever has happened, we feel that nothing is working, but that's not the case. Giving you an example, SEBI has sought information on each and every allegation made by both the parties and the counter arguments to it, each and every day that is happening, right?
Exactly.
So it's not that system will totally fail. Look at whether it's a majority shareholder or a minority shareholder or even for that public shareholder for that matter, they have lost a lot of money. So it's not that we are concerned about the spat, but they are not. It's not like that. So the point is that I agree with Mr. Basu on multiple occasions where he's saying actually the system is not working, but who should kind of be blamed for it? So to my mind, not only just the directors, executive, non-executive, but almost everyone. Then when you talked about the suggestion, appointment of independent directors, we are saying right now the model is central government has prescribed certain agencies, you go on that and they can actually empanel you and you can be in the list of independent directors, and one is taken from there. Look at 149 subsection 6, it says it should not be related to a promoter. Not related is not defined. I'm not talking about relative, I'm talking about not related. Not related, if my friend is there who is like my friend, childhood friend, I know him for 25 years, I know that he will not go against me, I can actually appoint him.
That's happening.
And that's happening.
That's today's newspaper. Tata Sons, Ratan Tata has kept down from the chairmanship of Tata Sons, he appointed his friend. You think the friend is not going to, if he steps out of line, he's going to be removed.
So I think one of the suggestion is that to make the appointment more effective so that independent director can actually, I'm saying law has given you a lot of things, but this needs to be, there needs to be there is a room where you need to do something more.
No, I have Sunil one question.
Sure.
He needs to be independent. Independent of whom is my question. Sure. Independent of the people who are managing the company.
Agreed.
How do you do that? You cannot put him under the control of that person.
Sure.
That, unless you tackle that, you will never have independence.
So what we are saying is what? I mean, that shareholding control and the management control will be different. That's what we are
But
saying.
who's going to take charge
Yeah.
of the shareholders' control outside
How-
of the
No,
management?
it's
How will
not a
that
question.
I'm just like,
It's
Joy,
a-
who would you, Joy,
It's a
who would
shareholding
your
control.
independent
How the-
director report to?
What is the management control
in
for?
your company, if
Matrix.
we had to remove, if you had to dissociate it, who would they report to?
The independent shareholder, independent director is responsible. His responsibilities are very clearly laid down under
No,
the
I
Act.
understand, but
His
who-
job is
Minority
to
shareholders.
protect the minority shareholders, to ensure that fraud does not happen, to
And the
protect the interests of the shareholders who are not involved in running, governing the company.
Let's say it needs 2/3 majority, right? So you've created this independent platform. It has some people from the company. It has a bunch of independent directors, and you need a certain quorum to be able to remove an independent director, right? But that entire independent system is not independent.
I'll just give you,
And I'm going to give you the best example that I know of this kind of governance is the editor of The Economist. Now, any of you who read The Economist know that that man or woman is under nobody's control, right? Once they are appointed, and the editor of The Economist could not be removed other than a process that is almost like an impeachment process by the board. So, technically, it's a brilliant system. But
So-
the thing is, you buy out the
Right.
board.
Who? By the shareholder? Yeah, but
then you have a, they will be a real representative of the minority shareholders.
I think
maybe one has
I
to-
think that's one of the suggestion which is already kind of in the thought process and kind of demand from public shareholder. So the latest filing with Bombay High Court or by the minority shareholder or public shareholder for that matter is that at least whenever you are removing an independent director, and the public shareholders have gone to the court for that to say we want the court to intervene and we just want that the independent director, when you want to actually remove him, you should get that right to only public shareholders, not the majority shareholders. However, it has its own demerits. I'll give you an example. If a board says there is one of the independent director, I am paying him sitting fees, I am paying him commission, he's kind of, we are paying him well, but we do not think so, and one of the the requirement is that he is adding up
Yeah.
to the
He's not adding value.
He's not adding value. So we are saying in that system
Hata.
you cannot actually remove him if you go to
you don't
that.
need a court. If, let's say, as I told you, I'm an independent
Even
director in your
SEBI
company.
takes so much time.
If I dissent, I must insist that it's recorded in the minutes. If you don't record it in the minutes, there must be a forum on which I can put it up. If it's there in the public, let the public know and let them decide whether to buy your company shares or not. So long educate, inform the public of, that I'm an independent director, I've done my job, here's my findings in a public forum. I think that alone is good enough.